This town is called Daisytown, or Elkmont, near Cades Cove in Townsend, Tennessee. Long before Daisytown became a summer getaway, the land around what is now Elkmont Historic District was part of a booming logging empire. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, the forests of the Smoky Mountains were seen not as a scenic treasure, but as valuable timber waiting to be harvested. That work was led by the powerful Little River Lumber Company, owned by Colonel W.B. Townsend. The company built railroads deep into the mountains, carving paths along rivers and ridges to haul massive logs down to sawmills. By 1908, the company established the town of Elkmont as a transfer station where logs could be moved between specialized mountain trains and standard rail lines. It didn't take long for the town to grow. Boarding houses, commissionaries, and small homes sprang up to serve the loggers and their families. By 1918, Elkmont had grown into one of the largest towns in Sevier County, with more than 1,500 residents living and working in this bustling company town. Life here wasn't easy. Logging was dangerous, demanding work, and most families depended entirely on the lumber company for housing, supplies, and income. But despite the hardships, Elkmont thrived, at least for a time. What nobody realized then was that the very success of logging would eventually change the town's futures in unexpected ways. As the timber began to thin out the surrounding mountains, a new opportunity revealed itself, one that had nothing to do with sawmills or rail cars. The Smokies, with their cool mountain air, flowing streams, and scenic beauty, began to attract attention from wealthy residents in nearby cities like Knoxville. Many of them were businessmen, lawyers, professors, and industrial leaders looking for a quiet place to escape the summer heat. That's when the Appalachian Club entered the story. In the early 1900s, members of the Appalachian Club leased land from the Little River Lumber Company to build a hunting and fishing retreat along Jakes Creek. Before long, individual families began constructing their own vacation cabins nearby, forming what would become Daisytown. Between 1910 and 1935, nearly 80 cabins were built in the area. These weren't rough mountain shacks. They were well-built summer homes, complete with porches, stone chimneys, and decorative woodwork. Many of the families who stayed came here from Knoxville and would travel by train, a journey that took about 3 hours to spend their summer in the mountains. For many visitors, Daisytown became more than just a vacation spot. It became a tradition. Families would arrive in late spring, often bring trunks of clothing, food supplies, and sometimes even household staff. Summers were filled with fishing trips, dances at the clubhouse, children playing along the creek, and evenings spent swapping stories on front porches. The season usually stretched from Memorial Day through Labor Day, making Daisytown a lively seasonal community year after year. At the center of Daisytown stood the Appalachian Clubhouse, the social hub of the entire community. Here families gathered for dances, meetings, and celebrations. It was where friendships were formed, romances began, and traditions were passed down through generations. In many ways, the clubhouse represented the transformation of the Smokies, from a place of industry to a place of recreation. Even Colonel Townsend himself became a member of the Appalachian Clubhouse, recognizing that tourism could become just as important as timber. The lumber company began advertising the region as a mountain getaway, even running special passenger trains to carry visitors into the valley. This shift from logging to leisure had begun, and Daisytown was right at the center of it. By the mid-1920s, the timber that once fueled Elkmont's growth had largely been cut. Logging operations in the immediate area began to slow, and by 1925, many of the rail lines were removed. Families who continued visiting Daisytown eventually began driving automobiles instead of arriving by train. At the same time, a large conservation was unfolding across the region, should these mountains be preserved. Many of the people who vacationed in Daisytown became strong supporters of creating a national park in the Smokies. They loved the mountains not for their timber but for their beauty, and they wanted to protect them. Land purchases began in the late 1920s, and eventually much of the surrounding property was sold to help establish what would become the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Some cabin owners even donated money to help buy land for the new park. The creation of the park in the 1930s marked a turning point. While the cabin's Daisy Town remained for many years, the surrounding landscape was changed forever. Even after the park was established, families continued returning to Daisy Town for decades. The cabins were leased rather than owned outright, meaning they existed in a kind of a temporal state, standing, but never fully permanent. Eventually those leases expired and many structures across Elkmont was removed, but Daisy Town held on longer than most. For years the remaining cabins sat quietly, weathered by time and mountain storms. Some fell into disrepair, their roofs sagging and paint fading. There were debates over what should be done, demolish them or preserve them. Thankfully, preservation efforts won. In the early 2000s, restoration work began to stabilize and protect the remaining buildings. Today, about 18 historic structures remain preserved within the district, standing as physical reminders of more than a century of history. Walking through Daisy Town now feels like a bit like stepping into a living photograph. Today, Daisy Town stands as one of the most fascinating historical areas inside the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Visitors can walk along restored cabins, explore the Appalachian Clubhouse, and imagine what life looked like during the early days of tourism in the Smokies. What makes Daisy Town so remarkable isn't just the building, it's what they represent. This was one of the earliest places where tourism began to shape the identity of the Smoky Mountains. It marked the transition from industry to recreation, from cutting trees to preserving forest. And in many ways, the story of Daisy Town helped shape the story of the national park itself. Without the people who vacationed here and later fought to protect the land, the Smoky Mountains might have looked very different today. Standing in Daisy Town today, it is easy to see the layers of history stacked on top of one another. First came the settlers, then the loggers, then the vacationers, and finally the preservationists. Each group left its mark, shaping the valley into what we see now. Daisy Town isn't just a collection of old cabins, it's a symbol of how the Smoky Mountains evolved from a working landscape into one of the most visited national parks in the United States. It tells a story about industry, recreation, community, and conservation, all wrapped into one quiet mountain hollow. And if you listen closely while walking these shaded paths, you can almost hear the echoes of the past, the distant whistle of a train and the laughter of children by the creek, and the hum of summer evenings that once filled the valley. That's the real magic of Daisy Town.